Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Still Learning Life Lessons and the Line, where we talk about being first responders. We talk about health and wellness. We talk about life in general, and then just some random BS to fill in the gaps. I am Amber, and I'm super excited right now. Like I had Joe Smaro on before, and now I've got Jesse Trevino. I feel like I'm in with the celebrities here. Okay, this is I'm super excited for this. Jesse, why don't you give everybody kind of just a Reader's Digest version of your career, your adulthood, I guess.
Uh, okay, yeah. I was born and raised in South Texas in a border town and in Southwest Texas, and I wanted to get out of here, so I joined the Marine Corps, and I was working at a Dollar General, and a recruiter came in one day, and I was sold, and I ended up in San Diego for boot camp, and then got sent to First Battalion, Fourth Marines, and ended up with my first roommate in life, which was Joe Smaro. You just brought him up. We've known each other 26 years, and hard to believe. Um, Went through OAF, OIF with First Battalion, Fourth Marines. Get out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Joe knew he wanted to go into law enforcement, and at the time, San Antonio, Texas, a town just or a city just 2 hours north of me from where I grew up, um, was at the time one of the highest paid police departments in the United States, and he went through the process and got in. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still trying different things, but I did move to San Antonio, and I started a mutual fund company and worked my way up. And then eventually, I got into after the market crash void happened. I knew I had to do something different, so Joe convinced me to apply, and I did. In 2 years was a 2-year hiring process. Application pool of 5,000 people, and eventually, I got my academy date in January 2010. And once I was in the academy, I felt like a fish in water. And I thought back then that it was because of the Marine Corps, but it really wasn't that. I was looking for something to, I guess, to take my anger out on. I had a lot of anger, a lot of trauma that I didn't recognize back then, and so I just soaked it all in. And I thought the way you're going to fix the world is by fighting, arresting, chasing it. And I hit the streets in the inner city west side of San Antonio, and I broke out, and I did exactly that. I uh, had a high use of force rate. I would talk down to people. I was a very angry person. I just didn't know why or where it was coming from. And then I had something new to be angry at because I had an academy classmate and a partner that were killed in the line of duty by drunk drivers within 6 months. So I went to a unit way too early in my career. I went to the drunk driving task force, and I was there for a little while. But my mental health was spiraling worse and worse. I was not sleeping, working every overtime shift I could get. I'd be in court in the morning, trying to finish graduate school in the evenings. And meanwhile, Joe Smaro, my best friend, is on this cool unit. Or I say cool for him. I didn't think it was cool, honestly. He was on this mental health unit, winning these awards and on TV all the time in the news. And if I'm honest, I could not imagine a more unsexy aspect of law enforcement. And I thought, who would want to talk to crazy people all day? That's stupid. I wanted to kick doors down and chase bad guys, so I believed. But he convinced me to go to the unit, and I give it a shot, and I'm glad I did because I learned a lot there. And the first thing I learned is one, there's a lot wrong with me, and it later would become a thematic or a philosophical development to our company. But it was just a seed planted back then, and that's you can't just expect people to embrace de-escalation skills or crisis intervention. They have to first really understand themselves. Started there, and then from there I went to the training academy. I was an academy instructor for a while, and then I was a coordinator of the cadet training. And then I thought I landed my dream job. I was at the Fusion Center in Southwest Texas, and I was tasked with leading and starting the first multidisciplinary mass violence threat team in the country at the police local level. And we did that. It did great work. But along the way, Joe and I started this company in 2017 called SolutionPoint Plus, and it was just a side hustle. I think Joe always knew it'd be bigger to what it is. I didn't. I just thought it was a way to make extra money and go to some nice places every now and then. But I think he always had the vision of what it is. And we started in 2017. It was just a side hustle. It eventually grew And in 2021, I was at a crossroads, like, what do we do? Or at the end of 2020, it was like, what happens now? And we kind of bet on ourselves and just took the risk. I was also doing it for my mental health. But yeah, we've been a company since then and been on our own since 21, and it's been kind of a wild ride. That's kind of my career background. Yeah.
Well, and that's how I learned about you and Joe, because I was enrolled in a 16-hour course, through SolutionPoint Plus a couple years ago, and it piqued my interest when I was in the class because previously when I worked in Minnesota, I was also a coach for CIT. So I coached first responders in talking to people in crisis and that sort of thing. So Solution Point Plus was exactly up my alley. And so when I discovered that, then I just kind of did my research on the company, you, Joe, that sort of thing. Like I told Joe, it's kind of been fangirling ever since when you guys said that you would do my podcast. So
Yeah.
super excited for this. Um, Now, my question is this, like, when you guys said that, Solution Point Plus, is a side hustle, you were kinda doing that and the law enforcement both at the same time, and then you just kinda what was there, like, one decision, like, in the first steps in starting Solution Point Plus, like, "Okay, we're gonna start this as a side hustle, now we're going full time." You know what I mean?
Yeah, there kind of was a few things for me. I think I should first kind of unpack what Solution Point Plus is. But it is a training and consulting firm. We're international now, and we operate in the space where public safety and mental illness intersect in all facets of public safety. And for the longest time, that's been outward facing, meaning we teach people about de-escalation, crisis intervention, how to talk to do very sick people, like you just mentioned. But it's always been a contingency or an added value that we would always make those trainings mental wellness focused also because you have to truly understand yourself if you're going to be able to interact with people well. And it was kind of Joe's vision that this company would take priority in our we actually have a vision statement now, which is that we would eradicate suicide in our client professions. And a vision by definition is something that's grandiose and can't really be achieved. But you strive for it and make big changes along the way. So that was, always Joe's passion. And now we do internal work, just like the training that you just mentioned, the 2 day. Now, um, our police department had several suicides in a year, six, I think it was five in a retiree, if I remember that year. And Joe was very vocal about wanting to do something about it. Joe's never been the type to shy away from debating. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as we get to the truth and of the matter and what's best. And his vocalness was taken by certain people in the administration as insubordination, or he wasn't in line. Meanwhile, I always had been, and I would be the guy that would make my bosses happy and do anything I could for the department. I just it's always been me. Um, and Joe went from being and I'll say this, the face and the voice for mental health for the city of San Antonio, not our police department, for the city of San Antonio. He was the guy. And that quickly got shut down. He was they put a muzzle on him, put him in a corner, and he wasn't allowed to play with anybody essentially. And Joe, Joe, right? He's the embodiment of love, the most positive guy you'll ever meet, very insightful. But that year was the most bitter and angry I've ever known him to be. And I didn't recognize my friend, and I let him know that. Meanwhile, he's in therapy, and he knew that he was working with this therapist about having an exit, and eventually he did. I don't think he ever thought I would. But we got so busy at the end of 2020, and most of it was in Iowa. And I knew that there was no way that I could leave work as much to do all the work that had to be done between October and January at that time. So I went and told my boss, hey, can I have October to January first off? I don't care if I don't get paid. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I just need it off. And he was like, no, that's not going to happen. too valuable, like, your job needs you." I was like, "Alright, I'll go back to patrol." And he's like, "That's just doesn't work that way, you've promoted, you." I was like, "Well, then I will give away my rank, put me back down to square one, and I'll go back to patrol." And he just said, "This isn't gonna fly, there's no way." So I went back to my desk and I thought for a few minutes, and then I just took a chance and wrote my resignation letter, and the rest is history. It's hard to believe that was, almost 6 years ago now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. And that's the thing though too is, listening to that, it's like the whole point of Solution Point Plus, the whole basis of it is mental health. And you had to do that for your own mental health. You had to leave and put
yeah,
that, just like what Joe had to do as well,
yeah,
for your own mental health and
yeah,
start on a
well,
new path.
exactly, and while his stress was different than mine, they were stressing him out directly, like, they were, like, mess I remember he wanted uh, a service dog for the department, and he could get one for free through the VA, and he's like, "Hey, this can also be the department's dog," he was always trying to do good, and they tried to corner him and, like, manipulated him into signing a paper that he was not mentally well enough to be a cop anymore. Like, they were playing all kinds of weird games. And then for me, I was pretty much told, "Hey, you have a bright future here, but you need to reconsider your friendships and who you hang out with." And I don't think they knew why we were friends or how long we'd been friends. But for me, that was the straw, if you will. Like,
Mhm.
I couldn't be a part of something or an organization that would make ultimatums like this.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it was for my mental health for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, Solution Point Plus is all over the place. I mean, like you said, it is big in Iowa,
Mhm.
um, and which is where I'm at. Do you notice a difference when you go to different parts of the country? Do you notice a difference as far as um, some states supporting, you know, training, supporting the mental health aspect of things? Do you, or unsupportive? Do you kind of feel more welcome some places than others?
Yeah, and that varies widely based on a number of factors. I will always be grateful to Iowa. Like, Iowa is like a discovery point for us. There were like, we wouldn't have a company, I don't think, if it weren't for Iowa. That kind of like launched us to other places. Um, but uh, for the most part, um, typically speaking, we have a unique business model, and the business model kind of works like this. Like, very rarely does an organization in public safety have the money to pay for training, especially training like ours. So it's normally from a benefactor. In Iowa's unique case, there was your local mental health authorities were the one investing in us, and the people would come to the training, even though it's free. They would sometimes come kicking and screaming, and they'd have like a super negative uh, um, perception about it. What would it be, or how the training would go?
Mhm.
Um, and with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, was our federal contract. There is a federal contract, and for years, we'd go to different institutions, and they'd be like, "Who are these jokers? Or what are they going to talk about? This is some BS training," and it always like transforms them. So I see universally this pushback on what this is, no matter who it is. Normally, the leadership or the sporting organization's all excited about it. There's like a handful of people that get excited, but for the most part, it's amazing how so many professions like law enforcement, corrections, public safety overall are extremely resistant to what this could be. We have a client, the Santa Clara County Valley Transportation Authority, so a transit organization in San Jose. So bus drivers and light rail workers, they sound like jaded cops or correctional workers, and they were like, "This is crap. 8 hours of this. I have to sit through this 8 hours," and then they leave transformed.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's professions that deal with difficult people that are so resistant to change or to new ideas or the idea that someone from the outside is going to tell them what to do. But once they get a taste of it, they usually want more or their minds get expanded. But yeah, there's a lot of resistance, whether it be for money, time, or just the subject matter itself. That's
Mhm.
sadly universal. If
Mhm.
there's anyone where it was super embracing, it was has been Canada, but that's about it. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Well, and it's funny that you say that because you say that some people come into the trainings kicking and screaming and your words, jaded by the people that they, work with kind of a thing. And that's in that public safety, you deal with all sorts of people. You deal with the people who love cops, you deal with the people who hate cops. And
yeah,
you've got both those worlds. Um and then you have some cops, just like any position, you have some cops who love their job and some cops who are just waiting for retirement. So
yeah,
it it kind of does mess with your head a little bit, and so you do become jaded in that career,
yeah.
any kind of first responder career. And even just as a 911 dispatcher, I see it too. We get people who are super nice to us on the phone and appreciate us, and then we get people who yell at us because for
Yeah,
whatever, they're just having a bad day.
as a matter of fact, right? You bring up a point that I should probably uh, mention is our largest revenue driver is essentially in Iowa went away from public safety, and it was strictly for clinicians and crisis workers. You know, anybody that deals with people in crisis. Yeah, they went to college, but they aren't formally trained in crisis work, and we provide the training. And that, for the longest time, has been a major revenue driver for SolutionPoint Plus in Iowa. And now it's coming back again. So they're non-cops, is what I'm saying, and they too are resistant when they find out that we're in law enforcement, or that we
Mhm,
represent law enforcement, or that we're bringing a new idea, or like, hey, you guys aren't psychiatrists or psychologists. So there's always resistance in the beginning, and then they get it.
mhm,
Sometimes the must the forest for the trees is what I say. Is they're focusing on the wrong thing. But yeah, and maybe it's a sign of when you deal with difficult people or in difficult professions, you just are, like you said, you become jaded. So it's possible.
mhm.
Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Well, I want to make sure too that we plug your new book, um,
Yeah.
Collateral
Thank you.
Damage. It's only been out a few months now, right? Just a couple months? When did it come out?
Yeah, it came out at the last week of October is when it came out. Yeah, like
Okay,
I
okay,
think
so a few months
think it
now.
came out October 27th or something. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, and the
yeah.
thing about Collateral Damage, I what I love about it is that it is very real. It's very hard hitting. It's not a soft book, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
the and I love that because we have to get real with mental health. We have to say the words. Talk about the illnesses and all the different solutions, I guess, for people, and there's that struggle between mental health facilities, mental health illnesses, and law enforcement. And there's not enough help out there for those with mental health. So somehow law enforcement ends up dealing with it. And then it becomes a law enforcement problem when they need help themselves. And it's just this huge tug of war. And
yeah,
that's what I love about this is that it's it's basically in my mind, it's basically saying if we don't get this straightened out, we are losing people. We are losing, people are going to fall
yeah,
through the cracks. And it's a cut the bullshit kind of a book. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I find it interesting. The feedback has been amazing. I wrote it during a very vulnerable time, and I I almost didn't want to do it. It's something that I've considered in the past, but not something I thought I would do. But Joe was adamant that I should. And when the opportunity came, I I took a stab at it, but I didn't know how it would be received. What I find most interesting is that people, um, I guess they don't know what to expect. I don't know if they think it's a book about my life, or what they're thinking or what I'm going to say. But it is about my observations with the systems and where I think there's been failures. And then I don't just go on my observations. I also look at what I've seen and then see if it's true in research. And then I support it with data. So my observations are also backed by data. And I kind of talk about that. Um, and then towards the end, I try to offer some solutions. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking. I always tell people that I feel like I kick people in the gut for chapter after chapter after chapter. And then they're waiting for like, all right, what do we do? And, what I offer isn't necessarily groundbreaking or anything, but I think it's something that can be done.
Hmm.
But yeah, I at first I was super anxious about it, like how would it go? But I feel very proud of it now. As far
Hmm.
as what I wish, there's things that I feel like I could have done more looking back in hindsight. Because you mentioned it, right? There's loss that happens, like, and I don't really dive into suicide specifically, right? I feel like honestly, I believe that that might be an entirely different book
Hmm.
and a different ways you can explore that. This is definitely about system failures, and you're right, losing people, and it's sad, and it just keeps happening over and over again.
Hmm.
But it is about outward violence, but it does have some reference to inward violence. But I think that there's an entire another book that I could do there that maybe
Hmm.
I'll explore later on. But
Well,
thank you.
and that's the thing. That's the thing too. When people fall through the cracks, um, we have people locked up, jails, prisons, wherever that need the mental health support, not
Yeah,
the locked in a jail cell support.
yeah,
And especially working as a dispatcher and seeing what my officers do and stuff, sometimes they don't have a choice. You know what I mean? This
yeah,
person needs to go
yeah.
somewhere.
Hmm.
So that's where they go. And at least you know what? They're safe, they're monitored, that sort of thing, but they're not getting the mental health help that they need.
Yeah,
And we've got so many people locked up who need that help. And so
yeah.
they're not in the right spot.
Exactly. What I'm most proud of is, I think a lot of people that see it on its face that have gone through a training or don't or haven't, but they work in the professions like corrections per se, they may see it as a book where I'm maybe shaming or bashing them or claiming that there's people that in jail and prison, and they have no reason to be there. They probably have assumptions about what I'm talking about. But what I really talk about is how difficult this is making their jobs and their life in the world,
Mhm.
right? Because society has failed. They are forced to address it. The criminal justice has been forced, systems has been forced to address it. And what I'm most proud of is the advocacy world that has historically been super critical of the criminal justice system. And there's room for to be critical, right? There's room for it's fair,
Mhm.
but not always, and to some extent, and because it lacks nuance and context. So to say like all correctional workers are bad or police are bad, it just misses a bunch of context. And when I have advocates like, oh, I didn't know this or I never thought about it this way. Yeah, that's really cool because I am showing
Mhm.
that all the way from telecommunications all the way to the prison cell door slamming, like all within that has been strained because of this issue and
Mhm.
trying to do the best
Mhm.
with what you can. And it isn't always great.
Mhm.
So if you want to be pissed off at cops or correctional workers or anybody, like there's a lot of fingers to point. And
Right.
so I'm proud that it brings that awareness. Even to the
Mhm.
point where some advocates have asked me if they can share it with policymakers or legislators and if I'd be willing to meet with them. So, I am a program evaluator by education, and while this didn't have a scientific approach, um, I am proud of it. I am. I am.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing too, sharing it with lawmakers and stuff, because just here locally, I've spoken to some local, legislator, lawmakers, that sort of thing, and local politicians per se, and just with the mental health aspect of it. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm not the most intelligent person out there. It's one of those things where it's just lived experience. My job,
Yeah.
my life, I can only speak on my
That's valuable.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The more we get together with them, the more we get mental health people, criminal justice people, lawmakers, together and having that
Exactly.
conversation. That's what we
Exactly.
need.
Yeah. And the grand finale of the book, the response I offer is just collaboration, right? It has to be collaborative.
Mhm,
There's a lot of broken pieces to this, and they all should be talking to each other to figure out how best we can mend it. But
mhm,
yeah, um, a lot of people that make decisions, create law, send money places, they aren't the most informed about this.
mhm, mhm,
And the loudest people making the most noise aren't always the best to be giving advice or really know everything about the topic. So I'm hoping that this helps bridge the gap, because for a lot, the criminal justice system gets blamed for a lot of things,
yep,
um,
mhm,
but sometimes that blame is unfair when nothing else exists.
mhm,
Especially in rural America, like in your
right.
experience, right? Yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing, here in Iowa, we've got, we 2 hours north of us are, Minneapolis, St. Paul, 2 hours south of us is Des Moines, both a couple metro areas where they have more access to they might have more mental health resources, more access to clinicians and things like that, whereas, yes, here in rural Iowa, we don't have all of that, so we do the best we can. We hope for the best, um, and
yeah,
and kinda go from there. So that's, uh, knowing that this is not a solution, but it's all we can do right now until things get fixed, you
yeah,
know? Um,
and
because it is a broken system.
yeah, and then in rural areas, they have it's the least, right? Whether it's scarcity of resources or money or people on the ground or whatever. Then there's distance and weather, and there's all kinds of challenges that exist within it.
Mhm,
So that's the place that are hit the hardest, and sadly, but yeah,
mhm,
and all that exists in those areas is the system, the criminal justice system,
right,
right? So it
right,
is, and I observed a lot of things, and I try to give a real account of what I saw, but also extend grace. Like if I think I have a chapter about I was in a jail and giving a jail tour in Iowa somewhere, and the way they're talking about a particular inmate and things they have to do, and that this room's for the crazies. Right? I listened, and but most people would just judge them and be like, "Oh, these guys are jerks," without ever taking account of the experiences they have to have, and not knowing any better either. Um,
mhm,
so I think a lot of uh, vulnerable people, there's all this effort to give grace to them and to, how do I word this? You know, be advocates for them. And the people that actually do the work that are dealing with it, that that aren't advocates, they're like dealing with the work. They get trampled on the most. So
uh-huh,
um, this book is an explanation, not a defense or picking a side, but just offering perspectives to people to think through. Like, how would you be if this is all you knew? So
mhm.
yeah,
Well, and that's the thing too, it's taking this side of it and this side of it and saying, "Okay, why are these bridges
yeah,
not," you
yeah.
know? Yeah, and that's basically yeah, exactly,
That's very
that's,
good, Ember. You're exactly right. Yeah, I did do that.
and
Yeah,
that's exactly what,
yeah.
the book needs, and we need to get this book in the hands of, like, more lawmakers, so they
Yeah,
understand.
I think there was a subtitle or a title. I think it said "Cops hate clinicians and clinicians hate cops," and then I unpack it. You're right. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm, yep,
yeah.
exactly,
When they
and
both
your book
have the
is
same
just
thoughts about the same
basically
thing. Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
that's what needs to happen is it's almost like there's 2 sides and they're not working together, so we need to figure out
yeah.
a way to, like, bridge them together, so, yeah,
Yeah.
no, so I love the book, like I
Thank you.
said, it's, kind of one of those cut the BS kinda things, um, and it's funny reading Joe's book, Unarmed, which is, you talk about Joe being the most loving person, it's very compassion, empathy, whatever. And then reading yours, which is like a hard hitting, no BS kind of a thing.
I
Um,
I think that
s-
describes our personalities pretty well.
right.
So
And
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
probably why
yeah,
Solution Point
yeah.
Plus works so well is because you've got the two different, you know, two different
Yeah.
sides of it.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
We heard that a lot during the over the years, and I often say that Joe's the heart of the operation, and then for better or for worse, probably worse, I'm the brains of it. So, and it's been well for us, but there's definitely a yin and yang to us. But yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Nice.
Well, Jesse, I want to thank you for your time. I'll
No,
show
it's
your
been my
book one more
pleasure.
time.
Thank you.
Collateral Damage.
It's on
Um,
Amazon.
yes, that's right. Amazon.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Um, and who knows, maybe one of these times I'll have you and Joe. We'll get it timed out. I'll have both of you together,
That'd be
and
cool.
we'll have another chat here down the road. So, all
Sounds
right.
good.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Again, anything you want to
Thank you,
add in
Amber.
there quickly?
No,
Any message for first responders? Anything, people?
no, and I do want to say thank you for you know caring about these topics and doing the work you do, and now doing this. It's important, and I'm glad you're doing it. Thanks for thinking of us. And to everyone listening, um, in the work that we do, the types of jobs we have, it's very easy to not take care of ourselves. And it's very easy to accept that that is like the norm. And as I get older, I get this keen awareness that we have to be priority. We have to prioritize ourselves, as Joe often says, be selfish as F. Um, and on its face, that sounds alarming because we don't like to be selfish. We have a negative connotation to it.
Uh-huh.
But selfishness is necessary for us to do this work. So take care of each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I had talked about on one of my previous podcasts. I was talking about how I have my full-time job and then I also part-time substitute teach at a school just for something fun and different to do. Um, and
That's
sometimes
good.
when I do too much and I feel overfill my plate and then my body just like shuts down and all of a sudden now I'm sick, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's my body's way. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like take those vacation days, take those days off,
Yeah.
be selfish, lay on the couch and binge watch TV all day just to clear your mind or whatever it is,
Yeah.
golfing or reading, sleeping. And that's the thing. You have to do that to reset your body, reset your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be selfish. So absolutely. So, all right, Jesse. Well, I thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody else, stay tuned for my next podcast. All right. Bye.
Bye bye.